I heard someone talking about draconian measures the other day, and I was familiar with the expression, knowing that it meant harsh, very repressive laws, but other than knowing that he was considered the original Mr. Cruel and Unusual, I had no idea who this Draco was or what any of his laws were. So I decided to do a bit of investigating. Draco lived in Athens in the 7th century BC, and I guess it was a wild time. There were no written laws, and the justice that existed was produced by vendettas, which meant that if some wrong was visited upon a family, they could set out to correct it by violent means, if necessary, and so there were many interfamilial feuds and much bloodshed. Following one particularly nasty riot, it was determined that all this revenge wasn't working. There didn't seem to be an end to it. Some laws should be written down, enforced by legal authority, and followed by all, rich and poor. And this Draco was the one who wrote up the laws. These laws were carved into wood and posted throughout the city. Not much of them, except by reputation, remains today. We have accounts by people like Aristotle. The attribution of severe penalties was earned mostly, I think, by the treatment of thieves. Theft must have been a problem because Draco was especially hard on this crime. If you stole an apple, you could be sentenced to death. If you stole a cabbage, you were sentenced to death. It didn't matter what you stole, a toothpick, a bowl, a pair of socks, one sock. If you were caught, you were sentenced to die. Theft makes me angry. I don't like thieves. I remember barely the Italian movie classic back when Italians were making classic movies, The Bicycle Thief, where this poor man needs a bicycle for a new job, and by selling his wife's dowry, their bed linen, he gets one, but then his bicycle is stolen. He pursues the thief in vain, and finally, desperate, tries to steal another, is caught and shamed before his son. We feel compassion for this man, who is now a thief. Theft is a real violation. Some cultures cut the hands off thieves, but if we started doing that, then we'd have lots of guys named Stumpy, and we'd have to take care of them. I can see Draco's point of view on this. If you're going to steal something, give it some serious consideration, because if you go ahead and do it and you get caught, that's it, you're dead. Harsh, yes, but as they say, probably a deterrent to the crime of stealing. Today, people steal all the time, and they don't worry much about getting caught. We mollycoddle thieves, and if I looked up Molly, I probably would find some lady judge who took pity on them, treated them kindly, and let them off. I don't know if I'd kill them all, but I do think stealing is rampant, and no one is overly afraid of the potential punishment, if any exists at all. A couple of nights in the joint is the price of doing business. That's all. Under Draco, murder was, of course, punishable by death, but involuntary homicide, where there is no intent or premeditation, they think that maybe what happened to anyone who did that is that they were exiled. I mention this because we don't do that, and I very much think we should. If we did exile felons, the question would immediately arise, okay, where would we send them? And my answer is that we have many neighbors to the south who have been releasing prisoners and shipping them north for years. We could return the favor, institute a kind of exchange program with them, allowing them the pleasure of meeting some of our least desirables, the cutthroats, rapists, murderers, and thieves. It will never happen, but it does me some good to think about it. You know how some people play fantasy football? Well, that was me playing fantasy justice. Not much is known about Draco. If he really was a bloodthirsty guy or someone who wanted to use the law as a means of reducing the bloodshed, a couple of pounds of prevention, if you know what I mean. There is a story about the way he died, however, and it is, to say the least, unusual and unexpected. He was, so it is said, at a theater, and he either made a speech or he was recognized in some way, and his supporters began to toss their hats at him as a way of demonstrating their approval, the way fans will do at a hockey game after someone scores 3 goals, the hat trick. But Draco's faithful didn't stop with hats. They showered him with coats and shirts and sweaters, all kinds of clothing, togas, whatever, and he was covered by a pile of garments, and it smothered him. That's a stretch, but that's the story. Since his death was an accident, clearly, I guess all of those people, his fans, according to the law, were exiled.